How about this for a headline? A deal with Iran that could unlock $300 billion in investments, but only if they play by the rules.
That's a massive number, and it's tied to some of the most contentious issues in global politics. Let's dive into what's happening.
Welcome to DeActa Daily Digest. I'm Joseph.
And I'm Juniper. Here are today's top stories.
So the US and Iran are on the brink of signing a memorandum of understanding in Switzerland, and it's being framed as a potential game changer for nuclear security and Middle East diplomacy. But as always, the devil is in the details.
It really is. This deal is being presented as a way to permanently halt Iran's nuclear ambitions, but it's already facing significant pushback, especially from Congress. What's the core of the controversy here?
Well, President Trump has been defending this agreement as a landmark achievement, saying it will prevent Iran from ever acquiring a nuclear weapon. But lawmakers, including Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, are calling the process secretive and demanding more transparency. Schumer even described it as a misadventure and is pushing for classified briefings and public explanations.
And he's not alone. There's bipartisan concern about the lack of clarity. Senator Joni Ernst, for example, emphasized that any deal of this magnitude needs to be scrutinized thoroughly. She's leaving the Senate, but she's still drawing a hard line. Iran must be verifiably and permanently prevented from obtaining nuclear weapons.
That's a key point. Trump, for his part, has offered to release the full text of the MOU and even hold a press conference to read it aloud. He's also planning to submit it to Congress for approval, framing it as a political test. Essentially, he's daring critics to reject a deal that he says will make the world safer.
But the critics aren't backing down. Vice President J.D. Vance has been out there trying to sell the deal, describing it as conditional. He's saying Iran has to prove it's serious about abandoning its nuclear ambitions and ceasing support for terrorism before it gets any benefits. What's your take on that approach?
It's a calculated gamble. The agreement includes a 60-day probationary period for Iran to demonstrate compliance. If they follow through, they could see sanctions relief and investment opportunities. But if they don't, the U.S. is prepared to walk away. It's a high-stakes strategy, no doubt about it.
And it's happening against a backdrop of ongoing violence in Lebanon and Gaza. Israeli strikes have killed civilians, and tensions are escalating. Iran, of course, is using this as an opportunity to call for Israeli withdrawal from what it describes as occupied Lebanese areas.
It's a stark reminder of how complex this situation is. On one hand, this memorandum could be a step towards stability in the region. On the other hand, the ongoing conflict in places like Lebanon and Gaza shows just how fragile that stability is. And then there's the economic angle to consider.
Right? The economic angle is huge. This deal reportedly allows Iran to resume fuel and oil sales under certain conditions. There's also talk of a $300 billion investment fund tied to Iran's compliance with the agreement. But it's not as straightforward as it sounds.
No, it's not. Vice President Vance has been clear that this isn't a direct U.S. cash payment. The idea is that private investors and Gulf partners would shoulder the financial risk. But critics are already pointing out the optics of this arrangement. For Iran, it might feel like a loss of dignity. And for the U.S., there's the question of whether this approach is sustainable or even enforceable.
And let's not overlook the issue of Iran's frozen assets. There's been some confusion about the numbers, with Iranian outlets citing $24 billion in frozen assets. While U.S. officials are saying those discussions are separate from this deal, it's another layer of complexity in an already intricate negotiation.
It really is. And then there's the matter of Iran's enriched uranium. The memorandum reportedly includes provisions for Iran to surrender its stockpile and submit to inspections. But the specifics haven't been made public yet, which only adds to the uncertainty.
And that uncertainty is fueling skepticism on all sides. Lawmakers in Washington are demanding transparency, and there are differing narratives coming out of Tehran and D.C. It's a delicate balancing act, trying to present this as a win to domestic constituencies while also navigating the international implications.
Speaking of international implications, Switzerland's role as the host for these talks is worth noting. They've traditionally been a neutral party in such negotiations, and the choice of the Bergenstock Resort as the venue seems symbolic. It's a scenic, almost serene setting for what's essentially a high-stakes diplomatic showdown.
It's a fascinating juxtaposition, isn't it? The calm of Lake Lucerne against the backdrop of such intense geopolitical maneuvering. But beyond the optics, what do you make of Trump's broader remarks at the G7 summit? He touched on everything from the Strait of Hormuz to Israel's actions in Lebanon.
It was classic Trump, wasn't it? Bold, sweeping statements designed to grab attention. He's predicting that the Strait of Hormuz will be fully reopened by Friday, which he says will help bring down energy prices. He also made a point of asserting U.S. capability to monitor and, if necessary, destroy Iran's enriched uranium.
And let's not overlook his comments on Israel, urging restraint from Prime Minister Netanyahu while also praising Qatar for its role in the crisis. It's a delicate dance. Trump seems to be positioning himself as a deal-maker on multiple fronts, not just with Iran, but also in the broader Middle East.
That's true, but it's a risky strategy. The Middle East is a region where alliances and rivalries can shift quickly. And while this MOU might represent progress, it's only one piece of a much larger puzzle. The next 60 days will be critical in determining whether this agreement can hold up under scrutiny.
Absolutely. And as we've seen, there's no shortage of challenges ahead. From congressional approval to regional tensions and the economic implications, this is a story that's far from over. But for now, all eyes are on Switzerland and that signing ceremony later this week.
It's going to be fascinating to see how this unfolds. There's so much at stake here, not just for the US and Iran, but for the entire region and even the global community. Let's hope cooler heads prevail and that this memorandum can pave the way for a more stable and secure future.
Agreed. And with that, we'll wrap up for today. There's a lot to keep an eye on in the coming days, and we'll be back to break it all down as it happens.